Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited you're with us on 33 Founders today because I'm here with Adrian Granzella Larssen, the Editor-in-Chief of The Muse. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So Adrian, I want to rewind a couple of years back to the early days of The Muse. You were Catherine and Alex's first hire, and you guys were working out of your apartments. Take me back to those days.
Yes, there were three founders at the time and myself, and sort of a cadre of part-time people who were helping us out, who were not paid. They just believed in what we were doing and really wanted to get experience in a startup or in a media job. And so it was this sort of team all over the country trying to make things happen. And yeah, working out of our apartments, going over to somebody's house and squeezing three people on a couch. Very much the sort of startup. Yeah, it was very cozy. Eating whatever we could find or whatever we could make our boyfriends or husbands or roommates cook us. And it was very, very much the kind of stereotypical early startup days.
Do you ever miss the early days?
I do sometimes. Right now we have a beautiful office in the Flatiron District of New York, and there are about 40 people here every day. And now I have sort of a very, come into the office at 9, leave at 6:30 or 7, book a conference room when I need it, fill out expense reports. And it feels very much like, a more regular corporate job. And some days I do miss the days of just, rolling out of bed and working in my pajamas all day, having just like crazy impromptu brainstorming sessions and no real idea what was going to happen in the day or what was going to happen in the week. I definitely look back on those days quite fondly. That said, I get a lot more sleep now. I have normal weekends and I get a lot more sleep now. So pros and cons.
What were some of the most challenging things you guys had to overcome in the early days?
Yeah, I think like so many startups, we were trying to build something from scratch with no money. We started it with, Catherine and Alex's bank account, and, my first paycheck came out of Catherine's checking account. We really did not we built it from scratch. We did not have anything. So getting those people on board to kind of help us in the early days was a challenge. Getting people to write for us in the early days was a challenge. Sharing our vision with people and asking them to help us build this thing when we didn't have any money or any resources was a challenge that that most startups face and that we definitely overcame. And then kind of on the other side of that was getting people to come to the site, getting those first 10,000 people to go to themuse.com, or at the time thedailymuse.com, and like us on Facebook and sign up for our email address and sort of introduce ourselves to the world. Really the same challenges that most startups have.
Did people understand what you guys were doing?
That's so interesting that you ask. Some people did, and when we started the company, it was for women. It was for young, professional, ambitious women.
I remember that.
Yeah, who wanted an alternative to, the glamour magazines of the world, who wanted to read about, careers and getting ahead and finding your passion and side projects and entrepreneurship. And at the time, there just wasn't a lot of content like that, or fun to read content like that on the web. And so a lot of women really, really got excited, instantly got what we were doing and instantly were excited about it and wanted to help out. Especially in the early days, we were based in San Francisco, and a lot of the first kind of initial investors and advisors and just people in the startup community we talked to were sort of like, why does this need to exist? Like, don't women just want to read about lipstick and sex? Catherine still tells the story. She went to her first investor meeting. The investor looked at her and he goes, okay, so women in careers, I sort of get it, but what are you going to do when all of your readers turn 30 and have babies and quit their jobs? Yeah. So there was a lot of that, and people who just didn't get it.
I don't even know what you're
saying.
I don't know. I would have. I think if I was Catherine, I would have just been, well, thanks for your time. I'm going to head out now.
I think that's basically what she did, and looked for people who got what we were doing. And luckily, she found them, and especially today, we have amazing advisors and amazing investors who really, really believe in what we're doing, who believe in the team, who believe in the mission of the company. And we've since broadened. We're not just focused on women.
Yeah.
We still talk a lot about the issues that face women, in the workplace and in the world, but it's sort of a broader conversation that involves men, that involves everyone. And when we really found that the issues that we were talking about, these issues of finding your passion or having a side project in addition to your day job or changing careers, were not just for women. It's a conversation that everybody needs to have and everybody needs to be a part of.
How long was it until you hired someone else?
We hired someone else. I joined in August. We hired somebody else in January. We hired a couple of technical people in January. We hired a part-time kind of partnerships person in February, and kind of added a few more people that year.
When it comes to your department in particular, you've grown. So it used to be you doing everything. Now you have over 500 freelance writers in addition to a team that works with you.
Yeah.
What was it like when you first hired someone? Because it's really hard to give someone the responsibility that you took so seriously.
Yeah. So my first full-time hire on my team, Erin, was our intern. We hired her as an intern, and she started, 10 hours a week on top of her schoolwork, and she was really amazing. And she came out to San Francisco over the summer and was full-time with us during the summer. And then after that went back to school, but still worked for us about 20 hours a week.
Impressive.
Yeah, I know. And then she came on full-time after she graduated. So for me, it was somebody I had already trusted and already been giving, more responsibility and increasing responsibility. And by the time she was here full time, there was so much that I could just be like, here you go. And really trusted that she, cared about the brand as much as I did. But, it's something that I always think about when I hire people, and thought about in my most recent round of hiring, where we brought on Jenny, who's our managing editor. I wanted to find somebody who I could trust and who believed in this as much as I do. And it's something we look for in hires, across the board. We work hard, and there's a lot of work to be done. And I think part of what keeps everybody going is that kind of passion for what we're doing and passion for what we're building. You have to have it.
How can you tell when so with Erin, you knew that you trusted her because she had been with you guys for so long. But how can you tell that you're going to be able to trust someone?
That's a really good question. So we have a really long interview process. We go through probably 3 or 4 rounds, including an assignment. And so by the time we hire somebody, you really felt like that you know them a little bit. References are so important. So both the references somebody gives you and the references they don't. I think what's really nice about New York is it's a really small world. So, with a lot of people we interview, we have, we can go on LinkedIn and see who who might know them. And it's a little bit controversial, and you have to be a little bit stealthy about it, because you don't, if people are being really confidential about their job search, you don't want to tip off anybody. But in my case, in this last hire, I had a couple of people I knew who had worked with Jenny before, and sent an email and said, hey, this is the person I'm thinking about hiring, what do you think? And in both cases, they just gave over the moon, glowing reviews. And that was just such a good sign to me that I had picked the right person.
What types of questions do you ask references?
I always ask sort of, what do you think this person's biggest strengths are? If there's 1 or 2 things they need to work on, what would that be? Basically how the experience went overall, and then what advice they would have for me as someone's future manager. And I think it often, if you kind of approach it more as a conversation, less, here are the 3 questions I'm going to ask you, you get a little bit more out of the person if you kind of keep it casual. And then you can really tell, what they really think.
What makes a candidate stand out to you in the interview that you do with them?
I think passion for what we're doing, excitement for the company, excitement for the role. Somebody who asks really thoughtful questions, somebody who you can tell has done their research on the company, done their research on the position, has thought a lot about what they would bring to the position and what they would do. And again, it sort of almost turns into a conversation, more a conversation than a back and forth interview. And when you feel like you're in an interview room with somebody and you really drive and you're having a great conversation and you're going back and forth about things that you would be talking about if they were hired, that to me has always really stood out.
Yeah, because then you can see them there.
Yeah, exactly. They feel like, oh, this person could easily walk in and sit down next to me and do the job.
So when you talk about sitting down next to you and doing the job, tell us about a day in the life of Adrian.
Yeah, so today, these days it's a little bit different. In the early days, it was really doing everything from sort of big picture.
Literally everything.
Literally everything. But big picture, kind of what do we want this brand to look like? What do we want to cover? What's our voice as a publication? How do we do things? Kind of coming up with all of those guidelines and procedures, to the nuts and bolts of brainstorming topics and finding writers and assigning topics and editing their work. And then all the way down to the very nitty gritty of getting an article ready to go on the site, writing headlines, choosing photos, proofreading copy, all the kind of minutia that gets an article up on the site. So today, my role is a little bit more loosely defined. I'm spending more time on sort of that big picture kind of strategy, operations, guidelines, and I'm involved in launching a couple of new initiatives. So our sponsored content department, we will be launching, we've done a little bit of it now, we'll be launching it in a couple of months. And then kind of a new product that will provide sort of more personalized one-on-one coaching to people who are coming to the Muse for advice.
So I know that you're a big fan of big picture planning, which you just shared is a lot of what you're doing now. I am not, because it just feels like it's all the way out there and I'm trying to grab it. How do you keep everything in perspective, but also take action on things that are going to move you forward in the future?
I think that one of the things that's really helped me, I think I'm kind of a rare breed in that I like the big picture and I like the details.
Very rare.
So one of the things that's helped me is to sort of to break the big picture down into very small tasks. So where do I want to be in a year? Okay, well, what does that look like, for next quarter? Okay, well, what does that look like for next month? Okay, well, what is, 1, 2, 3 things I can do this week that's going to get me closer to that? So it's sort of backing out from the big picture and turning it into more actionable things.
How often are you doing that, breaking down the big picture?
So I have sort of a quarterly check-in with myself, both for myself and for work. And that really helps me focus in on, the big picture, but in a more manageable way. And then I'm regularly checking in sort of against those goals every month and every week.
Today, what's your favorite part of your job?
I think my favorite part of my job is knowing that no matter what happens, no matter what we do, we're helping somebody every day. We hear a lot from Muse readers, I just found this great job, and then I read all of these articles, and I went into the interview, and it went super well, and and they just called me back. I'm getting this job, and I'm so excited, and my life has changed because of what I read or a company I found on the Muse. And I've never had that in my life before, and I think it's really, really rare to be in a job where people just give you positive feedback all the time. And it's a really kind of warm, helpful, generous, optimistic community of, both our team and our writers and our readers, and kind of being around that optimism is my favorite part of the job.
And that's primarily the reason that you were so drawn to the Muse, because you had quite a few jobs before, and when you found out, hey, I can help people avoid all of this dabbling I did and just find what they love, that's what got you excited.
Yeah, definitely. I did have a lot of jobs, and I never was one of those people who knew what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I felt very stressed about that. And I had to go down a lot of different paths and try a lot of different things before I figured out what it was that I really wanted to do. And I used to really beat myself up about that. But now I'm really glad that I went down all of those paths and tried a bunch of things. And I think, for most people, you're not going to have, an idea of what you want to do in your head. And it's not even a matter of, thinking about it or doing career assessments. It really takes sort of trying different things and, trying a bunch of different jobs in a bunch of different environments and really testing things out and test driving before you see what you really like. So, but that really was the driving force in me being part of the Muse was, being able to spread the message that it's okay to not know what you want to do. It's okay to try a bunch of different things. You can try a bunch of different things, and here's how to do it, and sort of share what I learned through all of my different work experiences with people who are going through the same thing.
What's your favorite story that you've ever published?
Oh, wow. That's like asking me to choose between my children.
Well, you can give me the top 3.
Yeah, the top 3. So we just published a great one on a woman who took a year off and moved to Thailand. She graduated from college. She didn't know what she wanted to do. And instead of jump into a job, she said, I could do this 1-year teaching fellowship in Thailand and try it out. And she sort of talked about all of the different things that it taught her beyond, how to operate in a new place and, how to teach English to people when it's their second language. And it was just a really kind of thoughtful, beautifully written piece. And I love those pieces that kind of take something that a lot of people would say, like, oh, I could never do that. I could never move to Thailand for a year. I could never drop everything. And just break it down into a very realistic, I'm this normal person and here's what I did and how I did it and how you could do it too.
I love how you shared her story, because you said there's times in life, and happens to all of us, where we just think there is no way I can do that. Not happening.
Yeah.
What's been a time in your life where you've said that, but you've overcome it?
I think, moving to New York. I used to come to New York, I've come to New York for the last 15 years, and every time I've come, I've been like, I love to visit there. I could never live there. Never move across the country. I know. I could never move across the country. I could never live in a 500 square foot apartment. I could never sort of keep up with the pace of New York. And when it really got to the point where I needed to move here for the Muse, I did, and it's been surprisingly great. I really love it. It's a lot easier to live here than I thought. I'm a little bit sad I didn't do it sooner in life, but yeah.
When it comes to your team today, how have you evolved as a leader as the culture's changed?
I think that with our early team, so my editorial team we're still very, very close-knit. We know a lot about what's going on in each other's personal lives, and they're all people who we just really like and enjoy as people, and have always had, a culture that feels like family in addition to feeling like coworkers. Erin, every year when I do her performance review, we go to a nice restaurant and do it over a glass of wine, which is very different than most companies out there. But I think as the company has grown, definitely there's a sense of being more of what you would consider a, traditional corporate sort of persona. I never roll into the office in sweatpants anymore. I didn't often do it in the early days, but definitely now when we're a bigger team,
No
I
BJs.
do it. No BJs. I make an effort to, really reach out to the younger people on our team and, offer kind of wisdom or just background on the Muse, help out wherever I can. I think that a lot of the leaders on our team have sort of formalized their roles is probably the best way to put it.
You've shared that 2 of your strongest qualities are decisiveness and instincts. And I want to dive into decisiveness because as much as sometimes I want to dive into a decision, there's always that voice that's like, What if X? How do you not even focus on the what ifs?
I think you always have to focus on the what ifs.
What? They're not going away. All right.
No, I think you have to focus on the what ifs. And I think you have to get comfortable with making decisions in spite of them. But believing in if you feel something is the right decision, and you believe in your gut, I really pay attention to gut feeling. Once I make a decision, you have to go down a path, and you can't say what if anymore. There's no point in saying what if once you have made a decision and once you've gone down a path.
What's a decision that you made, whether it's in the early days or within the last year for the Daily Muse in particular, that you really weren't sure about, that initially it was a big what if, but it turned out really successful?
I think that when we were deciding whether to broaden the focus of the Daily Muse from women only to a more gender neutral platform, that was something I struggled with a lot. And there were about
big shift.
Big shift. I mean, the biggest.
Yeah.
And there were 5 of us making the decision, and everybody sort of had different viewpoints on it. I was personally very, very torn, and did a lot of what if thinking, but ultimately sort of fell on the side of this is something that we should do, that we need to do, and the group felt the same way. And at that point, when you there is no going back, right? You can't broaden and then be like, oh,
3 weeks later.
See you later, guys. You're no longer welcome. But I mean, and you can certainly say what if, what if we had gone down the female focused road a little bit longer? What would have been different? What partnerships might we have gotten, not gotten? What funding might we have gotten or not gotten? But I think it's been absolutely the right decision. And I think we can do a lot to still, we still have a primarily female leadership team. We still talk about a lot of the issues, again, that women face in the workplace, just with a broadened audience. And I think we're stronger for it.
I know that Ariana Huffington is one of your personal heroes. What have you learned looking up to her?
A lot. The importance of sleep, which she talks about all the time. The importance of work-life balance, of things like, relationships with your coworkers, time out to play and be creative, time to wonder, time to, experience awe. Her book Thrive is definitely worth a read for anybody who hasn't read it yet. The importance of looking at success as more than just money, more than just power, but how it affects your life, how happy you are with your life in general, I think is something that I've learned so much from her in that area.
When you touch on the relationships, you shared a great insight from one of your friends about networking, and I'm excited to dive into that because you're very big on networking. And it was Mara, I have no idea how to pronounce her last name, Chiavacampo? I'm not sure, but you shared that her mentor reached out to her and said, who have you had lunch with lately? Mm-hmm. Who are you developing relationships? Who knows about you beyond Adrian, the editor-in-chief of The Muse?
Yeah.
Tell me about that question and networking, because when I first started out, my dad would say, go meet people. I was like, what do you want me to talk? I don't have anything to talk to them about.
Yeah, it's something that I never used to do either. And since I have been in this role, it's a huge part of my role. It's just meeting people who, could be interesting now, could be interesting in the future, or who just could be interesting to know. And I think no matter what you do, whether you are a founder, an entrepreneur, or you work in a corporate role, or you're just starting out, you're thinking about changing careers, there's so much benefit from just knowing a lot of people. And even if you're not sure what you would talk about, or you're not sure how you could help them or how they could help you, I think so many things in my life have come from just knowing someone. Anytime there is a partner that we want to reach out to, or someone we're thinking about hiring, or even when I have, have looked for jobs, or looked for other opportunities, the first place I turn is the people I know. And the more people there are who know who you are, and could potentially help you, like, just the more doors are going to be open for you in the future.
Yeah, glad you brought up partnerships, because you guys have a lot of important partnerships at the Muse with huge organizations like Time, Mashable, Forbes. When did you start looking to make those partnerships, and what was it like in the early days when they're like, who is the Muse?
Yeah, the early days, so actually partnerships were super important to us in the early days, and were one of the biggest ways that we got traffic to the site in the early days. So our early partners were Forbes, Business Insider, and the Huffington Post. And there was a little bit of, who are you? What are you doing? But I mean, what a lot of those were secured because, Catherine is a powered networker and had met people at all of those places and talked about the Muse, talked up the Muse, and it was really, really vital in securing those partnerships. The other thing, though, and I think, the first thing I say whenever anybody asks me how we've gotten those partnerships is you have to have something really, really great to offer. In this case, content. There's a lot of content out there. Most of it is bad. If you have content or have something that is great, that opens doors for a lot of partnerships. So just knowing what they were looking for, which was great career content, and then building that relationship, was how we made it happen.
So when it comes back to the networking side of things, you've actually described networking as one of the most important parts of your to-do list, and oftentimes it's a lot more important than we think. You shared previously some really great ways to fit it into your schedule. Can you share those right now?
Yes. So every Friday afternoon, which is the time that my brain is just ready to shut off and ready to be done for the week, I use that time as my networking time and just reach out to people I haven't touched base with in a while. I shoot people notes. I, send interesting articles. I say hi to people I haven't talked to in a while. I set up coffee or lunch dates with people. Send emails to people I think would be interesting and would want to connect with, and just make that time my sort of building and nurturing relationship time. And then on any given week, I probably have 4 or 5 kind of meetings with people, whether people I have known for a while or brand new people, but either just like a coffee in the morning, a lunch, or a drink in the afternoon or after work. I really try to build those meetings into my schedule.
So it's not just, and I think this is super important for networking, it's not just professional. You can connect with people socially.
Absolutely. And I think my strongest professional relationships are also social relationships. It's not going to happen with everybody. It shouldn't happen with everybody. But, more and more our work and personal lives are so intertwined. So I've made great friends through networking, and also great kind of professional connections through friends. Meeting Catherine and Alex was through a friend of a friend, not a professional connection at all. Just someone I was friendly with. So I would not underestimate the power of sort of blending those relationships.
I think that's great. I think sometimes networking can be so scary because you imagine it as an hour coffee date where you have to talk about every career accomplishment you have. And sometimes I don't know if you guys know Che Kwong over at Boxed, but he just I asked him at the end, what's one question you've always wanted to be asked? And he said, what do I do on the weekends? And I just thought, I always want to ask people about their personal lives, but I'm never sure if it's, intruding. And I think it's when you meet someone for coffee, you don't have to sit there and be like, so let's go over your LinkedIn profile.
Right. Exactly. And again, like, getting somebody to talk about what they did on the weekend or where they're traveling to this summer is a great way to turn it into more of a conversation than a back and forth, like, question, answer.
So then let's go right into that. What did you do last weekend?
Well, so
you didn't
last
have
weekend,
a computer.
I did not have my computer with me. I left my computer at the office for the first time ever. But my husband's sister and brother-in-law were in town. They were visiting New York for the first time ever, so we took them all over the city. Went to
That's always
Brooklyn,
fun.
went to Smorgasburg, had delicious food. Went to a Yankees game. Um, went out to eat lots of delicious food and just generally kind of roamed around the city showing them. So it was great.
What was the best meal of the weekend?
We had Peruvian food
Mm.
on Sunday night. That was delightful. This little place in Hell's Kitchen called Pio Pio, and it's very tasty.
All right, so the last couple of questions that I want to focus on is empowering women, because I know that's
Yeah.
something that's extremely important to you. Before I start asking questions, tell me about what you're excited about and what you want to see happen in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So what I want to see happen more than anything is more women in elected office in the U.S. Right now, women make up only 20% of Congress, and I think there is just a lot kind of systemically that is not going to change until we have more women in leadership positions in the government. Um, same thing with
Corporations.
corporations. Yeah, like 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. It's embarrassing, frankly. And, until we sort of see some of that change at the top, we are not going to see change kind of anywhere else. That said, I think there's a lot that we can all do sort of in our day-to-day lives, both to help get more women at the top and to sort of make small changes, from the ground level, from our day-to-day lives.
What are some of those things?
Yeah, I think, first, kind of supporting women getting elected, voting for women in your communities, in your, cities and counties, in your states, and then in Congress. And of course, the presidential election. Um, and then supporting organizations that help get women in politics. So Running Start is one of my favorite ones. They have programs for high school students, college students, women in their 20s and 30s, but really with the aim of helping get more women elected. And then I think sort of in your day-to-day life, having conversations about gender roles in the workplace, not just with your female friends or women colleagues, but with your men, with boyfriends, husbands, brothers, male coworkers, just really talking about the issues that we still face. Pointing out sexism when you see it, in your workplace or in other people's workplace or in the media, or wherever you see it, kind of using it to open up a conversation. I think mentoring other people, both young women and young men, and taking part in organizations and groups that really support women and help women support each other. So I am a member of a group called The List, and it's a bunch of women in kind of tech and media, and it basically is a group where everybody's role in that is to help each other as much as they possibly can. So, whether somebody needs an introduction or a job recommendation or, funding for their business or a partnership or whatever it is, everybody just does whatever they can to help other women. And, as they say, kind of a rising tide raises all boats. And the more that we kind of help each other, the better it's going to be for all women in the future.
I really love how you said that we have to point out sexism when we see it. We can't just let it get swept under the rug. What is a smart and constructive way to point it out? Because sometimes I'll see something and I'm the first to admit that I'll go on a rant about it, and I don't think that helps.
Yeah. We actually have a fantastic article on the Muse about this, written by a woman named Jen DeZura, who's one of our columnists, and she wrote an article on exactly that, how to point it out when you see it, and a lot of her advice was very much make fun of it. Like if you see an old white-haired dude call somebody sweetheart, laugh at him and slap his shoulder and be like, oh, hey, Bill, like, what is this, 1962? Like, we don't do that anymore. Make people feel like what they're doing is, it's not okay, it's not funny, it's antiquated, and just make fun of it. And, that's not the big serious conversation that we need to have about it. But I think that when you're in those situations at work and you're not going to, fly off the handle, you're not going to, have an hour-long conversation with somebody, sort of making fun of it can be a great way to handle it in the moment.
I'm glad you said that because I think if someone, for example, if I was in a meeting and someone called me sweetheart, I would just go into attack mode.
Yeah.
And it just perpetuates more problems than it helps.
Yeah. Yeah, but you could be like, sweetheart, really? Like, are you going to call this guy sweetheart too? Like, you really think I'm a sweetheart? Like, what am I, your daughter? There's just lots of little things that can go, can immediately turn the tables and making the person who said it seem like the idiot.
You do a lot of speaking engagements on this topic. What's your ritual before you get up on stage?
I try to have a few minutes of quiet and calm, and kind of read over my notes, take a few deep breaths. I try to, whenever I'm speaking, I don't have back-to-back engagements. I try not to be in a rush. I try to just take the, 20, have the 20 to 30 minutes beforehand, be calm, and then especially that 2 to 3 minutes beforehand, really just be quiet and calm.
All right, 2 more questions.
Yeah.
One of my favorite insights that I learned looking into all the work you're doing is that we should live every day like it's New Year's Eve. How do you do that?
I love that so much. It's actually what my father used to say about my grandparents. They were European, and they really just celebrated every day. And they ate great food. They were never just like taking something out of the cabinet and throwing it together. They made every meal, delicious. And, when they sat down, they would sit outside and, have flowers and have wine. And there was no meals in front of the TV. So really just taking those moments that could be so rushed, and making them special. And then I think looking for any reason to celebrate, even the little things. We celebrate every Friday here at the Muse. We have what we call Whiskey Friday, and
how early does that start?
It varies. Sometimes 5:30, sometimes 4. But everybody just sort of stops and pours a drink and enjoys each other's company and really kind of celebrates whatever happened that week.
I think it's so important that you emphasize celebrating the little things because in startup life, and I've even just found as you get older, you start thinking of shortcuts. So we just got a juicer, and I was like, great, on the days that I'm busy, I can just put everything in the juicer and have a smoothie on the go, and I'll be good all day.
Yeah.
How do you not do that in your life?
Oh, I definitely do that too.
Oh.
For sure. Absolutely, I do. I think that it's good to find shortcuts for the things that don't necessarily matter to you, and enjoy the things that do, or find shortcuts so that you can do more of what you love.
Like Blue Apron.
Like Blue Apron, exactly. Or, one of our engineers was talking about, there's apparently this kind of smoothie that you can it has all the
Soylent.
for the day. Yeah. And so people just can sit at their desk and, crush a smoothie and code all day long. They don't have to get up to make food. That's a shortcut that does not make life better. It wouldn't for me. So I would rather, pay for Blue Apron or pay for somebody to come and bring me a delicious meal than I would kind of a smoothie. So shortcuts that make sure, again, that you're still enjoying your life, because otherwise, what's the point?
I love it. All right. What's one question that you have always wanted to be asked, personal, professional, old athletic accomplishments, that you've never been asked before?
Wow. That's a great question. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you.
Maybe what would make the world better? What one thing would make the world better?
What would it be?
I really feel like the world would be better if we all loved what we did every day. If nobody hated Mondays, if nobody was, really, stressed about going to work or stressed about what they were doing all day long. If we all were working on things that we were excited about and passionate about, and we're changing the world in the way that we wanted to change the world, I think people would be a lot better. People would be a lot nicer to each other. They'd be a lot more fulfilled, and we'd all kind of live in a better place.
Well, I don't think I know many people who can say that that's the change they want to see and are actually pioneering that. So kudos to you for making that your everyday goal. How can everyone start reading the Muse and really dive into all of the resources you have? Because it's so much more than just articles.
Yeah, it is so much more than just articles, and thank you for pointing that out. So themuse.com has, profiles of over 300 inspiring companies around the country that are hiring, that want to hire.
I actually get a lot of interviews from there.
Oh, you do?
Seeing, what you guys send out. I'm like,
That's
score.
Awesome. Job postings, we have, thousands of jobs if you're looking for a job. And then beyond that, if you, whatever your goals are, we have email-based classes that can help you reach them. So our newest one is how to kickstart your side project. So if you have kind of a side project, a blog, cooking business, whatever it is that you want to start, we have an email class that tells you exactly how to make it happen. We have one on networking, we have one on interviewing, we have one on management, we have one on being happier at work every day. So really, no matter who you are and what you are looking for, there are classes and tools that can help you get there. And then the articles, of course. We put out 50 articles a week on really everything.
How you do that?
A lot of people. There are a lot of people involved in making that happen. But really, everything from productivity to resumes, cover letters, interviews, to being a nicer boss, a nicer coworker, to fun stuff too, like how to get more sleep and delicious things to make for your workday lunch. So
I love it. Thank you so much.